Other notable Week 2 matchups. All three you see on your screen here have already moved a field goal since opening. Jags were 1-point favorites against Cleveland. They're now laying 4 at home. Texans moving from 3.5 to 6.5 against the Bears. Same for the Eagles, from 3.5 to now 6.5 against the Falcons on Monday night.
One of the biggest ones to note there is that Colts-Green Bay game. With no Jordan Love, that went right off the key number of 3 and moved through yesterday. That was a big move today to keep an eye on.
All right, Erin, I'm curious what caught your eye for Week 2.
Well, obviously in Week 1, we saw some offenses that looked relatively good, put up a bunch of points. That would obviously be Dallas and the Saints. They're going to play each other this upcoming week, and the total is at 45.5, which feels a little bit low to me, knowing that these guys can also put up a ton of points. But at the same time, I'm just interested to see how this is going to end up moving. I will say the Saints, they looked really good, but they played a Panthers defense that's obviously not good whatsoever. And then I was really impressed by what Dallas was able to do, but will they be able to recreate that as well? They typically play better at home than they do on the road. I think what this total comes down to is, are the Saints going to able to put up a ton of points against this Dallas defense? So I'm just interested to see if this will continue to climb or if this will go the opposite way.
That makes a lot of sense to me as well from what those teams did in Week 1. Joe, is there a team coming off Week 1 that might be overvalued?
There's a couple you want to look the opposite way. That's Week 2 is all about going against what happened in Week 1 based on how far lines are going to move. One of them would be the situation with the Patriots in Seattle. Good win for New England, not taking anything away from them, but you do have to go inside and see how it happened. And Cincinnati was an absolute disaster in that matchup there. They went out, they had the ball for only 25 minutes. They were -2 in the turnover battle, and the Patriots had only 290 yards offense and still won that game. Enter Seattle. Their box score looks like a team that pushed on the number of 6. But the reality was they gave up 2 safeties. They had a couple turnovers. They made some mistakes up and down the field. This game could have been a blowout. There was a late glamour touchdown that put the game right on the number. Seattle's going to go in there and hammer them next week.
Yeah, speaking of the Patriots
Let's go.
and their opponent from Week 1, Cincinnati, I don't think it's overreacting to jump on the Chiefs now, laying 5.5 against Cincinnati. The game's in Kansas City. So before this gets to 2 full field goals, I'd like Patrick Mahomes laying just the 5.5. Again, big concern because Jamar Chase, even though he played a lot, didn't practice all season, training camp. T. Higgins did not play. You lose to New England. Maybe that says more about what type of team Zach Taylor's going to have than we think. And the Chiefs, I know they beat the Ravens, and it was somewhat close, but extra days of rest against a Cincinnati team, and maybe Hollywood Brown is back, adding to what Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice did. Like, early in the season, I'm going to be banging on these Bengals here, and I like laying 5.5 before it gets to 6 potentially.
Burrow does own him a little bit. Just a little bit.
Burrowhead. Just tell Patrick that, and then he'll beat him by 30.
Gotta be the hair.
Joe, you've also got your eye on the Chiefs'
handicapping.
Week 1 opponent.
Before it gets to 10 for Baltimore, I would jump in there. Right now, I saw it sitting 8.5 with the Ravens over the Raiders. That's an excellent teaser number, so you can take them down inside the key number 3. As long as it's not 10, that's an auto play for me on Baltimore. The Raiders were awful in this game yesterday. Absolutely awful against what many could call Baltimore light. Jim wants to do what John wants to do. He wants to run power at you. He wants to be physical and play good defense. Harbaugh, John that is, has the better defense and probably has the better rushing attack with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Antonio Pierce showed you everything you need to know about why he might not be qualified for the job. Situation about midway through the 4th quarter, they're down a score. They're inside Charger territory, 4th and short, and he punts. Chargers take the ball, go down the field, score again, put it out of range. No one had done that, down a score in opponent territory in the 4th quarter since 2016 when you were that short on the distance. It was ridiculous. Baltimore's going to put it on and they have the extra rest. They're coming home for their home debut.
I think that could be a massive Derrick Henry smash spot. Erin, anything else?
I'd be looking at the first half of that, too.
Okay.
I love the Ravens in the first half at home. Yes, we're going to be looking at the Vikings game that's coming up. Vikings are playing the 49ers. Now, the 49ers are playing tonight, so it's interesting to see how that line will shift, especially if the 49ers win. Right now, the 49ers are laying 5.5 points. That seems incredibly low, despite them having to go on the road against a Vikings team that I don't think is that good. They played the Giants. They looked good against the Giants. Sam Darnold still threw a pick in that game. He only had 208 passing yards. So I do think that they might have to lean on Aaron Jones in that game, but regardless, I think that this is one of those spots, especially if you think the 49ers are going to win tonight, that maybe you want to grab them at 5.5. I don't think it's going to go in the opposite direction.
If I'm to take one thing away from this show, Erin, it's that the Giants are not good.
Giants, no. There's many adjectives besides not good that we could be using, but this is a PC show.
Okay, then we'll keep it that way. 37.5 is a very low total, but I still think I want to get ahead of it, potentially moving down. Steelers, my
What?
Steelers, in Denver taking on the Broncos. You got Bo Nix, who will be at home. But again, he's got to deal with that defense I was just talking about a second ago. TJ Watt likely going to make life hell for him. And again, the Steelers' offense so far consists of Chris Boswell. So it might be a field goal fest at a mile high above sea level in Denver.
Mike Tomlin road unders are very much a thing. Look that trend up before we get into that game this weekend. Tomlin road games, they tend to go under a lot. I love Sean Payton talking about how he doesn't feel like he put Bo Nix in a situation to fail. That was literally the definition of a situation to fail that you put him in yesterday.
Yep, we only got 18 points in the first Tomlin road game of the season.
Broncos team total. As soon as that comes out, we'll be looking at that.